I'd like to welcome all of you to the SIGA Sport Integrity Week 2020. This is the first of its kind global integrity event being conducted virtually, and during the course of to discuss various issues around sport integrity around the world. SIGA, of course, as we all know, aims to promote the practice of integrity in sport around the world and drive forward the spirit of fairness in sport. This session is part of what we call Stage Asia, and we aim to understand the current status of integrity in India and the road ahead. So moving forward to talking about the session at hand, arguably the most important stakeholder in sport integrity is, of course, the player. And in this session, we look to discuss the relationship that players share with the concept of integrity, how they perceive the concept, how they build it into their lives in everything that they do, and what are the key challenges that we face in a young sporting nation like India when we aim to build a robust integrity landscape. So we have a very, very diverse set of people and panelists with us today, and I'd like to just jump in to introducing everyone. We have Mr. Javed Siraj, who's the integrity officer at the All India Football Federation. We have Mr. Joy Bhattacharya, who is the CEO of the Pro Volleyball League here in India and the former tournament director of the FIFA Under 17 World Cup in 2017. One of the most familiar faces in Indian sport, if you watch sport in India ever. We have Neha Agarwal, who's an Olympian in the sport of table tennis, and she currently heads partnerships and communication at Olympic Gold Quest, which is OGQ. And we have Anna Mehrotra, who's a partner at TMT Law Practice and the founder of AM Sports Law and Management. She's also the vice chairperson of the anti-doping disciplinary panel here in India. Welcome, everybody. My name is Saurabh Mehta, and I head consulting at India on Track, and we are trying to do our bit in changing sports and the way sports is played and commercialized here in India. So I jump straight into the discussion, and Joy, I'd like to start with you. There's been a lot of talk this whole week about building of robust sports integrity ecosystems and practices integrity in sport. But if we sort of take a step back, because all these building, the guidelines, processes are happening at a much later stage. But how important is it to focus on education and integrity at the youth level, and how has India embraced the same as far as grassroots and youth level sports is concerned?
Look, I'd say right now there's been very, very little focus on it so far. And I think this focus has to increase because, I mean, really, you see, when we look at, integrity and we look at, in terms of people or things that go wrong, we tend to look at fixing matches or things like that, which are larger concepts for money, for stuff like that. But the truth is that integrity can be a far more basic thing. Give this team an easy break so that they can also qualify. Give this kid a chance to play. And the truth is that at that level in Indian sport, because as a nation we are not that committed or invested in our children's sport, the people who are in charge of it are not necessarily being supervised at all. Whether it's a sports teacher, whether it's small time referee or umpire, and therefore their ability for at that level integrity to take a blast is very high, and nor do they have the right role players. So I think it's really important. And in India, the only way things like this work is to make it mandatory in some way, shape, or form. Saying that this is what you need to read, this is translated in 20 odd languages, you need to read this, you need to know this. Because I am getting kids, when I was in the IPL, I was getting kids who the first time they're facing it is when they came to an IPL workshop, because the international players at least saw it. But domestic players at that time in 2010-11, even they didn't have a complete understanding of what ICC, integrity rules were all about. So I think it needs to be much younger, much more clear, and because there is a whole lot of issues at the bottom of Indian sport which needs to be sorted, and I think it's important. It's extremely important.
No, absolutely. And after we all saw what happened with the IPL a few years ago, and that was pretty much our biggest story around integrity, and how there are problems very, very deep rooted in the system. So do you think there's been a material change in how young players would potentially conduct themselves if ever face situations like that after what happened, or was that just a new story which came and went, but the problems that we sort of see at the youth level still remain.
Yeah, I think it's changed a little bit in cricket, or because of the state of cricket as it is, and because it's been there in the news. But in a lot of other sports, there's a whole lot of things that happen. I mean, I'll tell you, the most simple parts of corruption, have to do with the fact that uh, it's very simple. That don't take it easy against this opponent, or I'm going to play this guy, stuff like that. And federations are equally complicit, and the rod goes all the way through. So the problem is that any time that I'm asking a player to do something which is externally motivated and has nothing to do with winning the game, as far as I'm concerned, it's an integrity breach. And it may be for money, it may not be for money, but I'm already entering territory which is it's a very slippery slope from there on. And therefore, I think while cricket has got better at it, and with I think AIFF with Javed Saab, Kushal and Praful, they've been seeing it for a long time that they are interested in making a difference in football as well. But I think there need to be laws across the board, and there are a lot more places that we need to go and check.
No, absolutely. And I think it's a good point that you raised, that you can't look at all the sports with the same lens, and the realities of the various sports are just so diverse, right? As in a country like India. Neha, you've been, of course, involved in table tennis, which can be considered not one of the bigger sports in India. So, how is integrity perceived by players in your sport and in other sports that you've seen? And how seriously is it actually taken? Or is it just one of those things you have to check a box and sort of move on?
Yeah, I mean, just like Joy mentioned, we still have such a long way to go. I remember in my playing days, firstly, there was no such concept as somebody talking about integrity, and as far as I know, still there isn't much work happening around that area. I think a lot just was dependent on the kind of person you are, on your character, and on the very motive of why you play sport, right? For athletes, if they're really passionate and they play it for the love of the sport and win it for the country, versus there are players who grow up to having other intentions as well. So it really boils down to that. But from a systematic level, there isn't any exchange of information, or there isn't any things that are told to you as an athlete, what you are, what's expected out of you, and what is the right code of conduct. So I think that's something which is lacking within the system itself. And still, I don't see in other key area sports also. I mean, of course, cricket and football have a way head start than other sports in India in terms of in these areas, but others are not really. And I think the onus is really on the federations to step their game up, because integrity, there's so many other concepts which kind of come into it, age, doping, and other things like that. So it's a whole world altogether where athletes are expected to have and follow certain things, which is really lacking right now. So yeah, I mean, we still have a long way to go, in my opinion. And also, it's not considered something really important as of now. That's the perception which we need to change, because it's such an exciting time in sport in India. We are reaching towards pinnacle in various sports, and various concepts are there which must be laid equal importance, but integrity unfortunately isn't one of the priority things.
So we'll have to put a bit of a positive sort of spin on events. It seems to be quite doom and gloom as far as where we stand in terms of integrity. Mr. Siraj, you are one of the people who, for a long time, has actually been tasked with trying to build this integrity ecosystem in the sport of football. But given that the size of the country and the kind of tournaments, the number of competitions, the number of people involved, given the size and scale of India, what are the larger challenges you face, especially in terms of implementing policies at scale? And are they unique to India, or do you think that is true for any large country in terms of the challenges that we face?
Hi, I really support Madam Neha that she says that integrity is always put on the back burner, and it is not the priority area. The priority area is to win the game. And the coach is mainly the person behind that, that he always wants that they should win the game by any methods. Can't say hook or crook, but they want to win, because the performance of coach is also judged from the fact that how many games he has won. Otherwise, his club will not be able to give him, promote him, or appreciate him. So always integrity is a secondary thing which they are taken up. But now in 2011, FIFA had laid a lot of emphasis on integrity, and they made it compulsory for all the football associations of the world, and that they should have an integrity officer fully dedicated for these things. And so I am here in India, and what I feel that in India, being a very large country, it's very difficult to operate all around only by one person, and so many leagues are going on, so many important tournaments are going on. How many things you can cover it? So there are a lot of logistic problems and difficulties. How I keep moving to all the important I League clubs, and this sometime on the ISL clubs also, and others the important leagues, and make integrity briefings to them. Integrity workshops are being taken to the players so that they can know the actual challenges which they have to face, and a lot of risk attached to them, because if they lack the integrity, their career is at the stake, and they can suffer like anything. That's why the challenges are many, but there are a lot of things to be done in the ground, and we are trying to make it at the grassroots level also, at the I mean under 15, under 14, underage level tournaments, because ultimately what happens that these very players who are at the lower level, they come and play in the main leagues like I League or ISL. So if the supply line is polluted or supply line is not, having some tainted things, it will not be good for the main leagues, because the man is caged from the habits which they develop during the youth age. So if their habits are spoiled at the early age, I think it is not good for the country at all. And my main target are the coaches, because the coaches are the architects of the game, and they can make the career or mar the career of a player. So they have to do something also in the field of integrity, and they have to themselves prove that they are the man of character, and they are the man of integrity, which can be imbibed by the players. So the challenges are too many, and I hope we are doing whatever possible. It is something very less, but anyway, we expect that it will have an effect, and it is having an effect. I have seen many places, people are mostly aware now. Awareness has come, and a lot of things we are doing in the field, like sending brochures to them, sending messages and posters and merchandising type of things we are trying, so that we can go ahead and spread the message of integrity.
Sure, no, that's really helpful, sir. So also, as you mentioned, it's not one person or one organization that can be responsible for sports integrity in a country like India. But have you ever felt that you, no matter what kind of policies that you create, you don't get the same support with the stakeholders on ground? When I say stakeholders, I mean especially the teams or the clubs or the coaches. Are you not able to at any stage get them on board and make them understand the seriousness of what is being spoken about? Or is that something that everybody seems to be on board and understand, especially after what's happened over the past few years?
That you are very much right that all the clubs have got a different type of setup, and most of the clubs, they don't respond equally. Some of the clubs I have noticed, they are very respondent. They immediately come forward when I ask them to have a workshop on integrity. They immediately give dates and give times. But many clubs, mostly the clubs which are much senior, they don't feel that it is very much important for them to have integrity, and they feel that they are doing is right. So they have to, all of them have to be on the same page, and they have to do the things. They have to always go ahead with the request or anything, any proposal on the integrity.
No, absolutely. Anna, just sort of switching this discussion into a slightly more legal tone. Do you see that there are any challenges or particular issues that you face in the practical implementation of what you draft? So you obviously worked on a lot of integrity-based documents and guidelines and so on. But when you actually see them being implemented on ground, you feel that this is not the way we had planned it or what we had in mind. And then why do you think those roadblocks exist in your experience?
I mean, so I'm just going to take a step back and move back to what Neha pointed out, right? Break down integrity into what integrity in sport really is. I mean, the primary issues that we face with regard to integrity are match fixing, which is the obvious thing, which is the first thought that goes when you talk about integrity, but also things like age fraud and doping, which are the other two major menaces that impact the integrity in sport. And then, of course, we have secondary issues like sexual harassment, or for that matter, in India, we also have a lot of favoritism, right? Sometimes if you're able to pull strings off, then you're automatically selected to a particular team versus somebody else who's a deserving candidate. But I think what, at large, firstly, athletes need to understand before, they try to cut corners and think that, there will be a shortcut to success, is that the whole economics of sport is based on the unpredictability element. That's the reason that everybody's excited about watching a live game. And the moment you're not so excited about watching a retelecast, because you already know about the result that has come about in a retelecast. So I think, and that's what people need to understand, that the fact that they can make money from sport, they can make a living out of it, is because everybody believes that this is played fair. And I think, yes, when the whole IPL scandal did break out, I think people did started questioning, and there was a little bit of an impact on the viewership of IPL for a brief moment. And that's when of course eventually people forgot about it and viewership numbers went up and how. But so that being said, of course, I mean, every in India, I mean, today we've had leagues springing up every quarter almost until we hit the pandemic. I mean, I think between the time that the IPL started, I'd done a study sometime in 2016, there are about 30 odd leagues that had started in about 10 odd years, and only like 7 to 8 of them survived. So of course, there is a huge financial aspect. So people who don't have the sustenance power are going to cut corners wherever possible and save costs on whatever possible. So the top thing to do is, okay, I don't want to engage an integrity officer, or I don't want to put in place an integrity system. I mean, there are organizations like Sport Radar, right, that have systems like fraud detection systems. They've developed those software. So, you don't want to pay an organization like that a huge amount of money, even though it's not very expensive in the large scheme of things. I mean, if you're spending crores of rupees, you're probably only spending about, say, 10 to 15 lakh rupees on this integrity, getting that integrity software on board. But I mean, so that is like the first cut corner that you do in terms of, okay, that's how ignorance is. But also, I mean, I guess talking from a player perspective today, the unfortunate reality in our country is that nobody is paid enough money except cricketers and very few other athletes in other sports, right? So for people who come to realize that, they can sort of make a quick buck, maybe because they will never make it to the elite level of an athlete wherein they will make money off sponsorships, or for that matter, earn the kind of salary from playing or the prize money from playing sport, sort of resort to it faster. And I think it all comes from the value system right from childhood, right? Sometimes your parents themselves, I mean, simply because you come from an extremely humble background, parents themselves are encouraging of the fact that let's get a fraud birth certificate and manipulate your age. Or for that matter, like Mr. Siraj pointed out, I mean, at the end of the day, it is the coaches who have a large amount of influence on athletes. So the coaches will turn around and tell the athlete that, hey, please consume this substance. It will give you that competitive advantage. So you need to speak to that strata or stakeholders as far as sport is concerned as well. So I think that is again something that we face a challenge in terms of legal implementation at the league level, right? You think that it's enough to do one player workshop, but I guess, I mean, from a player perspective, what I see something is extremely interesting is that in the UK, so there is a licensing system for the jockeys. Now, if you can use the similar kind of licensing system at something like a Khelo India initiative, where you make those workshops compulsory, even for a coach or things like that. I mean, especially taking a cue from the anti-doping code, wherein people who are in the circle of association of an athlete are also bound to be punished if found, in violation of the anti-doping code. So then things like that would sort of make things easier in terms of implementation. But again, we live in a country like India. I mean, today, even the anti-doping code, as a vice chairman of the anti-doping organization, often what I see is that, the anti-doping code in itself is not available in any other language other than English and Hindi in India. We have a huge language barrier. So again, that becomes a bit of an issue with athletes that especially come from humble backgrounds or remote areas in the country and things like that. So those are some of the practical challenges that I have seen in the time that, I've been working in sport and trying to implement integrity and things like that, and especially in sports that are not so popular, or when dealing with athletes who come from not such, affluent backgrounds.
Sure. No, so I think much like most things in Indian sport, Joy, it comes down to the lack of money, right? I mean, who exactly in Indian sport is making money? How much are people willing to sort of invest in more, or how much are they able to invest in anything more except just staying alive? So I think we can keep talking about what needs to happen, but is it somewhere lost where you say that there are teams, clubs, players barely sustaining themselves, and then you expect them to go on investing money in something like integrity, right? And the whole profit versus propriety debate that we have, right? And how to find that balance. So obviously you wear many hats and a CEO of the Pro Volleyball League as well. Where does that discussion stand as far as investment in integrity is concerned, or is it just to do the bare minimum to pass through what is required as per the guidelines?
Well, look, the truth is you're absolutely right. I mean, for anybody running a club or anybody even running a league, integrity is very far off in the radar of things that they're looking at. Okay, though in truth it is extremely important and if you don't have it, as the Italian league discovered to its cost. I mean, if you see how the ratings of the Italian league dropped internationally once the whole, the match fixing scandal broke. It broke the league. As a league, the Italian league was in the 80s and 90s perhaps better than the English Premier League. So a lot of these, so there are huge long-term ramifications to having a corrupt sporting system. Huge long-term ramifications. Eventually, everyone loses. But to understand that or see that requires a certain amount of vision, which is not always available. I think that's the thing. What we need to do, what I discovered when we were running this league, is that we did partner with a partner on this, because one of the things that we were very careful about is, if any game is televised today, okay, you are in a situation, any game which is live telecast in this country is immediately a subject or a target of somebody willing to bet on it.
Yeah.
Any game, okay? And I mean, you'd be amazed at the kind of games that people bet on, and serious money is put on. And I think Anna will be able to give you a much better perspective on that, but there's serious money put in. Therefore, we needed to take that step, and it is something that is, that's the last thing you want to think about. But on the other hand, you've seen a situation where you've taken players who are normally used to bunking 4 to a room, put them in a 5-star hotel, there's serious money at stake, and neither the players nor a lot of the coaches were used to it. So it's a powder keg in that sense, it's an accident waiting to happen. So we realized very early on that we had to, and see what happens in that case is, you can't really be nice, okay? Because being nice it's too close. People are not going to understand, and the start of a league or 2 days before the league starts is not the right time to philosophically make people understand what you're saying. So we made really draconian rules that anything with a whiff of this thing, and we'd throw them out. We had an integrity workshop, so all the teams were screaming, complaining, we don't want to do it, we want to practice this, that. We shoved it down there. And we made the laws extremely clear. Even a whiff of it and you will be suspended. I mean, whether we have been able to implement it or not, I don't know. But that was the only way to do it, because the fact of the matter is, it is something that you otherwise are not in control of. And because you don't have a prolonged exposure to these kind of things, when they do come up, you just have to lay the law as clearly and unequivocally as possible. So that's what we did, and it's a huge challenge. And any time, I tell other league guys as well. I said, if you guys, you'll be amazed. You think nobody watches you, nobody pays money for you. But if your league is on television live and you're not doing integrity, there is trouble.
Yes.
And that trouble is going to come back and bite you someday.
Absolutely. Anna, you of course mentioned the whole anti-doping issue, and of course you've come across several cases of anti-doping. where do you, have we, at least from a regulatory and from a guidelines perspective, have we reached somewhere at par with what the global standards of integrity are? Do we at least have the processes, documentation, and so on, and education in place, or are we significantly far off? And secondly, do you think that all the headlines that were given to match fixing and anti-doping over the past few years, have you seen a steady improvement in awareness or on responsibility as far as athletes are concerned, or is that all just in our heads and nothing really is moving forward?
No, I mean, I'd be wrong if I say that nothing is moving forward, but I'm also not in a position to give a strong defense given that the NDTL still remains suspended. It's the suspension. It was suspended initially for the initial period of 6 months, and then the suspension has been extended. So obviously, I mean, we are facing certain issues. There is no doubt. There is an issue in the process being followed. But that being said, there are some extremely positive steps that are being taken as well, right? So now the National Anti-Doping Agency has actually gone ahead and launched an app for the athletes and everybody else, the other stakeholders, to be able to download. So if a similar app can, and it's not a very expensive app to make, it's just that, yes, unfortunate reality is that all athletes are not as tech savvy. So that's a different story altogether. But that being said, I mean, some positive steps are certainly being taken in the atmosphere. I mean, just to add to what Joyce said in terms of just put things into perspective, moving slightly away from the anti-doping model or the issue briefly, is that, you know, anybody who's addicted to betting in any fashion whatsoever is going to go ahead and do that. I mean, during the pandemic, even though in India, it's an unlicensed, unregulated betting market, there was a 60% downfall in terms of the, you know, revenue that was being generated from the betting market, but there was still revenue worth $25 million that was generated during the pandemic. So people will find live tournaments anywhere in the world. So likewise, I mean, today, if somebody has, you know, that grain of, okay, I can get a little bit of advantage by consuming an X substance. I mean, of course, the whole thing was blown out of proportion. I mean, not even blown out of proportion, rather got a fair bit of limelight, which rightly so, in the whole Lance Armstrong issue. And we've, you know, seen it over the years in terms of how these things do then give people ideas. So I'm not in favor of blowing things out of proportion in the media. Definitely, I mean, fair reporting is required. But to that extent, I mean, I think, again, coming back to NADA having launched an app, I do see that that's some great progress that has been made over, you know, during the time of the pandemic, especially. So at least that awareness is being put in place. And I mean, that being said, I think we could, you know, with the whole sporting bill that came about in 2013. After that, there was Mr. Anurag Thakur, which introduced the National Sports Ethics Bill. And then Mr. Shashi Tharoor went ahead and launched the whole Prevention of Sporting Fraud Bill, right, in 2018. So it's not that the thing is not playing in the minds of the people in India or the policymakers, etc. It's just about taking that step forward to actually turning it into an act. And then going about, you know, trying to sort of then further regulate things in the best possible manner.
Sure. Neha, would you like to add to that, especially as far as the discussion on anti-doping is concerned, and how your journey has been as far as substance consumption and education around that is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, I think we still have a long way to go again in this area. The positives are that, okay, now there are athletes who are aware that, you know, they have to ask their nutritionist or their concerned sports science, the physiotherapist or whosoever is concerned before having any medicine. But believe me or not, like, athletes still, like Anna mentioned briefly, that they're not too tech savvy. So, you know, simple things like checking your email to fill in whereabouts, right? Athletes don't know that. They don't even check their emails. They don't know what filling whereabouts is all about. And and these are, you know, serious Olympic level athletes. So I think as part of, you know, NADA needs to actually sort of do a better job. And from the athlete side, I think it's more about spreading awareness. What I see is that WADA doing as much as they can from the international perspective at international events, but that aggressiveness in terms of percolating the information down to the very grassroots level is not really happening. There's still a lot going on. See, because for there are like integrity is something like I mentioned before is not is taught to us, right? As athletes, nobody comes and tells you this is how you're this is how the system works and that's how it's supposed to be. So to get that medal by hook or by crook, people do end up going the other way. And that's also with age fraud as well. So I think a lot is in the, it's a lot systematic. Of course, the onus is always on the athlete, on the coach who is with the athlete, but a lot is very, very ingrained in the system where as a country altogether, we need to pay more importance. I remember from the international level, so the International Table Tennis Federation, has an award called the Fair Play Award at the World Junior Championships every year. Now, that was, a couple of years back, was given to one of the Indian athletes. And I feel like something like that is rewarding. And it sort of, even if you're not thinking about these things, it kind of gets into your head if there is a reward system. So that was something I thought was interesting, where probably organizations and key stakeholders could adopt and have it, and just have more information at events, because that's where your more attention span is there. I mean, I know a lot of things are happening, random checks are happening at SAI centers and training centers and all of that, but still players do find means to get away with it, and also just systematic things like not checking your emails, which is a very ridiculous thing at this day and age. So I think it's both ways, and we got to do a lot more than what we're doing at present.
Looking for a silver lining, I think it's good to know that that fair play award we've been seeing in IPL actually matters to someone. I just thought that that's something that has to be done. I didn't know anybody actually cared about that, but that's good to know. So we have time for just one last question to all of you, and I'd like to just sort of bring this all back to, are we just talking for the sake of talking, or is there something that actually going to change on ground in India? So, as Neha and Anna mentioned, age fraud, of course, is very, very rampant, and where in Indian sport is almost the done thing, right? You have 2 certificates and everything, that the kind of teams that you put out, the whole Afridi model, as they call it, right? Of the age being whatever you sort of want it to be. But when we work with international rights holders and they go on telling us how to have extremely strict measures, especially around things like safeguarding with children and sexual harassment and so on, it somehow seems very, very on the one hand, where they want measures which are of the Western or European standards, whereas in India this is what the reality is. So are we just sort of kidding ourselves here? And what my question actually is that, since there are so many people involved in this sort of journey, right? You have agents, you have parents, you have educators, you have coaches. Everyone's payout is linked to the athlete's success. So no matter what we sort of sit here and discuss and draft and try and implement, is it too utopian to think that in a country like India something could change? And what is that one thing that we would all want to see? And when I'm saying one thing, I mean absolutely practical thing, something that could happen in the next year or two, not mindsets changing and things which are in nobody's control. But if there's one measure that all of you would like to see happen, which could actually start changing how these various stakeholders in sport are concerned, what would that be? I'd like to start with Mr. Siraj first, please.
Yeah. Actually, from the message which is being now passed on, the things are improving certainly, and many of the clubs, they are training for anti-doping also, as well also themselves. But the problem is that the atmosphere is not conducive to those things because they suffer themselves. And one more thing is there a lot of news comes up that the fence eating the crop, the things are like that. So recently we had a case in Nepal, which is just our neighboring country. There a lot of fixing was done, and the fixing was done by the two teams. One team belonged to the president and another belonged to the vice president of the club, I mean of the association. So if the things happen, all whatever we are doing is all it is vitiated. And they feel, oh, it is a routine thing. They are doing their work and we are also doing our work. So this message should not be like this. But I feel that integrity is something which is eternal, and it starts from your home only. Because if your parents are telling to speak truth and they don't themselves do speak the truth, then the message goes wrong. So we have to, integrity is to start from that. It is a whole lifestyle change that makes the thing. And what we are doing is just to make awareness in the overall scenario about this doping issue. In all my workshops, I take care of this thing, that I inform the players that they have to take only performance enhancing drugs with the permission of the doctor, because the doctor can only tell. But the unfortunate part of the thing is that somebody, if it is caught in a doping issue, he is to face himself. He is accountable for his own act, and nobody comes forward to help, either the club or any the coach or somebody. So now one player was affected in us. Now he is, he has been relieved. So it is, the message goes like this, that they have to be very much aware. But recently I was going through the newspaper 2-3 days back that doping is no more a criminal offense. It has become a civil offense. And it is at par with the WADA now. So what will be the implication of these things in India? That is yet to come, and we have to see how it affects. But I think a lot of things are being done in the field, and we are optimistic about all these things, that things will improve. But it is to also improve from the top. If the clubs are not paying salary to the players, and they are promoting, unethical culture among the team, so it won't be conducive for promoting any integrity or any anti-doping issues.
Sure. Joy, can it ever become from winning at all costs to winning fairly?
Look, I'll tell you, I believe in far more practical, very distinct. So, for example, age. Okay, in football, the age-related fraud reduced dramatically just before the under 17 World Cup, because a huge amount of testing was done, because we knew that squad could not have players. If FIFA would conduct a test later, we could not have the embarrassment of that. So what happened, an external situation created a certainty. Two things are going to happen. One is technology is advancing. So this, fraud birth certificate, this will slowly weed out of our system over time. It will take time, but that technology is moving in that direction. So technology will do something which it's not going to be advertently done, but it will hugely help, because it will go into a database, a record, and say, okay, look, this is your date of birth. We've got it here. That's one. Two, I say the only thing that I would do, which would seriously help in reducing this thing in India, is I would legalize betting. And I'd say that in complete this thing, bring it out in the open, let that money go and, sponsor some integrity workshops. But I'd rather see people betting on legal odds, which everyone can see, than betting in the black market. And that's the simplest, easiest step that we can take. The government, I know the sports ministry has examined it in detail many times. And I remember Mr. Injeti Srinivas went to England, had a good look when he was the sports secretary. That's something that can be done. It just needs political will, and it needs 5 leaders to say, let's not be partisan about it. It's common sense just to do it. It's good for sport.
Absolutely. And I think Anna's still smiling about the legalizing of the betting thing. A lot more work coming her way. Anna?
No, of course, I'd second Joy any day. But as we are moving towards, pushing the way forward for legalizing betting, the development that's happened as of this afternoon. I've only read one news piece that Andhra Pradesh has decided to follow suit like some of the other states and not permit online rummy anymore in the state. So that's, I mean, setbacks like these are also taking place at the same time. Of course, it is all, I mean, there was only one news article that came out in the News 18 Telugu version, and I used Google Translate to read it. But essentially, that the issue there was similar, that there was a lot of manipulation that was taking place, and that is why they've taken this step they've taken. So it boils down to integrity. And I guess if we can do something as basic as, you have now two versions of Khelo India. One is the Khelo India Youth Games, and the other one is Khelo India College Games.
Yeah.
If you can sort of, the 2 weeks that you spend at Khelo, apart from playing, if you can start off an integrity program for athletes at that, I think at that grassroots level, this will take a long way, given the amount of participation and the message that will send, and start off a bit of a certification program for both coaches and the athletes or the parents who might be visiting. That'll be a good step to take in terms of, trying to deal with integrity issues in a small way, but also go a long way in the future, because these are the athletes that we're looking at from a future perspective, as in targeting 2028 Olympics and things like that.
No, absolutely. Neha?
Yeah, I think have more conversations, more awareness around this. To be honest, I don't see that happening much from at various levels. From various key stakeholders actually. So the closest to an athlete is, I mean, apart from their parents, is the coach, and in all our the coaches program make that as a key sort of initiative to have, and mandatory practice. But overall, have more conversations, more workshops to have this around the athlete. I think that's something which is really missing. There are implications they see around, but it comes off as one-off, in my opinion. So constant conversations around it will have it in their heads, and at least since the biggest onus is on the athlete themselves, it's very, very critical to do that. So be it at events, be it at training, be it from the federation side, from the government side, I think more and more such awareness programs and campaigns would definitely help. But like I said earlier, we still have a long way to go, and if seriously implemented things, it'll definitely, we'll see a positive change, but it's gonna take time, in my opinion.
No, absolutely. And I think organizations such as SIGA are sort of trying to lead this revolution about integrity in sport around the world, and identified India as one of the key markets where it really needs to be implemented. So hopefully going forward, we'll have a lot more action on ground, which results in at least the next generation of athletes taking it a lot more seriously, and not just the athletes, but the entire ecosystem. Thank you everyone for joining us and taking out the time today. And we look to hear from you very soon when we have these discussions again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.